Welcome to Mary Alice.
What did you do?
We are a Desperate Housewives recap podcast with me, Erin McGee.
And me, Jakub Tanzi. Two best friends breaking down each episode until we answer the ultimate question, Mary Alice, what did you do?
Unless, of course, we have finished season 1, in which case, insert new mystery here.
Yes, there's a lot to unpack on Wisteria Lane.
Content warnings can be found in the episode description.
So get comfortable and let's get into this week's episode. Hi!
Welcome back! We are back this week for episode 7, but more crucially than that, we have actually launched and posted and we did it.
Yeah, in our real time as we record this is the week we launched the pod, and I just want to say thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
We've received so many lovely comments and messages, and it's just been so nice and exciting for us. So thank you for supporting the pod so far.
It's been unbelievable. Everybody has been so nice and so generous, and we love you.
We really do.
Also, we, in real time, have just recently recorded our first ever bonus episode with Emily Charujas.
Incredible. If you haven't seen it yet, it is a video episode available.
It's unbelievable. I think I'm going to reveal now that we found this out slightly tipsy on the train home back from the Sugar Babes.
Which was also a great time.
It was an amazing time. And we had already messaged the Sugar Babes directly trying to get them as podcast guests. I'm just going to expose us for that right now.
I'm holding out hope. Mutia, I know you be watching Desperate Housewives.
So we did it as a complete joke. And then the next thing you know, for real, we got an email back from Emily, an Instagram DM, sorry. And we were both just shaking on the train, unable to process, and also going, we have to sleep on it. We have to sleep on it because we can't come back from the Sugar Babes slightly tipsy doing this business conference type of situation.
Should we post our reaction photos in the Instagram post for this episode?
We absolutely have to. I remember you were almost fully asleep 30 seconds before, and then you were wired for the rest of the train.
I was revived. I had a whole new lease on life.
She brought you back to life.
She really did. Thank you, Emily, if you're listening.
We love her. Oh, so will we get into this episode? It's called Anything You Can Do, which I assume is a play on Anything You Can Do, I Can Do Better.
Which is very appropriate because there's a big theme in this episode of competition.
I'm just going to say it. I said it to you earlier, pre-record. This is my favourite episode so far.
It's a solid episode, truly start to finish. There is not one plot line in this that is not hilarious.
It is immaculately executed. The outfits are flawless. The character development is there. And I really struggled for a quote of the week this episode.
Mine is going to be real soon. So get excited.
Get hyped. I say I'm excited every episode, but I have to say, I mean it every time.
And this is certainly no exception. Incredible time to be had. All right, let's get into it. We haven't done that in a while.
I do it in my head every single
time. So we start with our classic Mary Alice voiceover talking about competition. And as she's talking about it, we see a shot of two people out on a run. She tells us that on Wisteria Lane, competition means keeping up with Bree van de Kamp. And we see Bree doing her gardening, and we need to talk about this outfit.
It's my outfit of the week.
If Bree had a pair of sunglasses on, she would be on her way to the Brat tour.
She is so giving Brat.
Bree van de Kamp is Brat.
Yes,
and that's the episode title. Calling it now.
Bree van de Kamp is having a Brat summer.
We've done it. Let's just end the episode.
Okay. No, it is my outfit of the week already. I think I've already said this before. Bree's gardening outfits need their own television show. The little bucket hat that's pink and green, it's giving Cosmo and Wanda. And then, I don't know how to describe it, but I guess a kind of V-neck, sleeveless polo shirt type of thing that's lime. It's fabulous.
It's giving Cosmo and Wanda. It's giving Elphaba and Glinda.
And this is a great scene for Martha.
Oh, this is just phenomenal. So we get a montage of Martha Huber struggling to keep up with Bree's gardening. And baby, that Battenberg cake shirt is back in action.
I knew that you would bring that up, and I had already emotionally prepared myself. So that doesn't hurt me.
Okay.
Sticks and stones, baby.
Martha is essentially the wish.com version of Bree when it comes to gardening. And honestly, we all are.
We all are. But I love Martha's little garden gnomes. I'm obsessed with them.
I didn't even clock them.
Well, don't you worry, because I will be sending you a screenshot over after this episode. She has little garden gnomes that look so mischievous.
Much like her little minions.
Yes. So I'm laughing preemptively at what comes next, which is there is a man called Victor. He's out for a jog. He starts to complain about his heart, his chest a little bit. And Martha says, "Would you like a slurp from my hose?"
That's my quote of the week.
It was nearly mine.
It was just such a casual, would you like a slurp from my hose? I don't know why I went English there, but anyway.
I actually have thought that Martha is putting on an American accent this entire time.
And this man passes out right on Martha's lawn.
And we get death count number 3. We've not had a death count tally in a while, but death count number 3.
Does he die?
Yes. His body is taken away by an he comes out in a body bag.
Oh, it's a body bag. I was not paying that close. I just assumed they were lifting him off into the ambulance.
No.
Well, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So Martha, I'm just so excited. So Martha runs off to call an ambulance, and then she stops dead in her tracks because she is the big bad and she schemes up a plan. She uses a wheelbarrow to carry this man's, I wrote unconscious body, but I guess dead body, over to Bree's lawn and dumps him onto her perfectly kept flowers, hides the wheelbarrow and calls for help for someone to call 911. Cut to Bree being horrified as her lawn is torn up by the first responders wheeling away this man's body to the ambulance. And as Bree looks up, Mrs. Huber is watching her from her own garden as she's watering the plants with the most sinister, smug look on her face you could ever imagine. Cut to opening credits, obsessed.
Done. The perfect cold open. Now I'm starting to wonder if it's not a body bag situation. Maybe it is implied that he just had a heart attack. I assumed he was dead. But the shot of Martha scooting with the wheelbarrow and the body is so funny.
Oh, I'm obsessed with it.
Something else I thought was just a nice little callback is a few episodes ago, all of the women are talking about Paul and how much they dislike him. But Bree has to flag that he's done beautiful things with the lawn. And I just thought it was a nice callback.
Yeah, he's also in competition with her, I guess, for best gardener on the lane.
Oh, yeah. Then we get to book club. So a bunch of women that we have never seen before and absolutely will never see again are in a book club with our main ladies. And they are reading Madame Bovary, which, Jakub, are you familiar?
Absolutely not. There were many shots of the book cover through the episode and I truly clocked it and went, that's probably significant.
Yes. So basically, Madame Bovary is about a doctor's wife. And eventually she starts an affair. She goes into debt. And ultimately, she ends her life.
Ooh.
So it's just interesting. It's a nice little
parallel.
So then we get into a little bit of a montage initially of Lynette taking more ADHD medication, Gabby and John just kind of being near each other, Rex and Bree arguing, and I think it's a really cute shot of Susan and her calendar marking her days off, and she has date with Mike in giant letters, and she's circling.
I mean, it's been a long time coming, this first official date.
It's been a long time coming. And then we cut back to the book club again. Lynette is walking her buggy around the giant dining table. Susan is fully trying to read the book during book club, which, as someone who is in a book club, relatable as hell. Gabby's snacking. And this poor woman says, "Am I the only one who read the book?" And I want to clock her because she's dressed as this beautiful, I would say, lesbian literary agent.
I mean, you'll know more about that than me.
And Bree asks, I think she names them, but I didn't write them down because Bree doesn't care and neither do I. She asks the women that we've never seen before to go help her in the kitchen, closes the door on them and immediately says, "God, I couldn't wait to get rid of them."
So good.
So good. Susan then debriefs them on last episode, the Dana situation and Zach being in the center.
Yeah. Susan really said previously on Desperate Housewives.
And thank goodness, we forget that these shows used to air once a week, much like our podcast. But you did miss huge chunks, and those recaps were so important.
They really were. And once we get that recap of Zach, we then get a hard cut to suspicious Paul Young continuing to be suspicious.
I love Paul Young. I'm just going to say that right now. I think he is one of the most fascinating characters of this season. I think out of the men, certainly, he is the most compelling to watch, and he is given the most character development.
I would agree with that.
I also think...
In this season.
Yes. I also think he has the most nuance in this season.
I think it's because the reason he has so much nuance as well is that the other husbands are there to serve the purpose of expanding our main girls' characters,
Very
whereas
true.
Paul is very much his own character since Mary Alice isn't with us.
Yes. Oh, yes. Good observing, Jakub.
Yeah, that's right. I can analyze too. I'm not just here for vibes.
So this episode, I've noticed in particular, is like a beautiful web weaved together. So some of our notes, I think we'll be doing a lot of back and forth.
Yeah.
Will we talk about Paul first?
Yes. So we cut to suspicious Paul Young being suspicious. He is with the investigator. We saw him hire in the previous episode, and they are analysing the infamous note. The investigator has figured out where said stationery has come from and that the postage is from the local post office, meaning the note creator is probably someone local who Paul knows. The investigator tells him about a previous case he had where a housewife was the culprit, which kind of plants the idea in Paul's head that one of the housewives on the lane could have written the note. And also, the investigator implies that he was hired not just to investigate, but to kill that housewife in question.
Yes. Two things about this scene. One, the investigator says that the stationery is 100% cotton, which I don't think makes sense. But anyway, I love the paper analysis. It's exactly what I would do. The other thing is every single scene in this episode, the reason why it's my favorite so far is there's so many comedic moments sliced in between perfectly. And one of them is the investigator saying, Mr. Young, sometimes evil drives a minivan. And I would argue more often than not, evil drives a minivan.
Indeed, indeed.
Our next scene is a rare interaction between Paul and Edie at this point. So Paul is trying to sell the property quickly, his house, and Edie is saying that they have to disclose that someone ended their life there. Is that a thing? Do you have to disclose that?
Well, I see it in American TV all the time. So I think in America it might be. Also, just to flag, because I don't think it's come up before, Edie is a real estate agent, which is why she's here.
Yes. So Edie heartlessly says he can say that Mary Alice shot herself in the living room and then crawled out the back to die. And while she's there, it's kind of implied to be some sort of home visit before the open house. And she leaves behind her folio pad. Paul goes into it, opens it up, and realizes the paper inside is a match for the infamous note. And Paul is now convinced in this moment that Edie is the one who wrote the note.
He is. And can we just also say, while we're on Edie, she looks absolutely astounding in her hot pink suit with the shortest skirt imaginable.
Yes.
Lives were changed that workday.
I have that written down too. She is giving Legally Blonde.
That is exactly what she is giving. Oh my God. Hello, Elwoods.
I think we spoke about this before we started recording this podcast, back when we were just humble fans of the show. Each housewife is basically given their colour. I think Edie's colour is pink. She looks amazing in pink.
And she's done it. She's pulled it off a few times in different shades of pink too.
Yes, and that is not easy to do.
That is range.
Range, baby.
So later, Paul is showing his investigator Edie stationery, who agrees they found Mary Alice's blackmailer in Edie. And the investigator says it's time to call the police, but Paul says that's not an option for him for obvious reasons, body in the chest, etc. And the investigator says this: for $5,000 she's hurt, for 10 grand she's gone. Erin, do you have anything to say about this?
You know I do. My first thought is that feels incredibly cheap.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
So I naturally had to check the rates for inflation. And I would like to rephrase and update. For $8,464.77, she's hurt. For $16,929.54, she's gone.
Well, damn, that's a bit more saving to do.
I would like to say, though, I think that still feels extremely reasonable. I don't know why I have
For
it
a
in my head.
murder, it feels cheap, but I suppose I don't know what the going rate for a murder is in general. Maybe it
Yes.
depends on the quality of the hitman.
I would like to believe that it costs more.
Maybe there's different add-ons, like if you want to guarantee their silence.
Yes.
If there's a particular method you want.
She has a Patreon.
Oh, that's an idea for our Patreon when we get into one.
What, being a hitman?
Yeah.
You can't handle it. You've never told a lie in your life. I could. I think I've said this before. I will say it again. I was destined to be a mob wife. I'm the person that, the police comes to the door and I'm like, don't talk about my husband. The siren in the background is so effective for that. My husband is being exposed.
Keep it in.
He's going to jail for murder.
All right, so for our next collection of scenes, we're going to talk about Susan.
I have something controversial to say.
Go for it.
I really liked her this episode. I really liked Susan this episode. I thought she was slightly charming, endearing. She did not annoy me as she has done in previous.
I think that you are alone in that between the two of us.
Oh, I can't wait. Cannot wait. So we cut to Susan. She's getting dressed up for her date with Mike. According to Julie, she's trying too hard, which I love.
And can I just say that the first lines of dialogue in this scene, which are spoken when we're just looking at a close-up of her hands or something, was so clearly recorded and added to the scene later,
Yes.
because it does not sound like it's coming from the room. It's almost as if the characters died for a brief moment, passed into the afterlife, and contributed to Mary Alice's voiceover.
It's great though. And the gag of the scene, I suppose, is that, and by gag, I mean joke and not gag as in gag, is that Julie is playing the role of the mother once again, asking when she's going to be home, saying that she told Mike to have her home by 11. And then finally she says, so you got protection?
My favorite moment, because she's just teasing her mum this whole time.
Yes.
My favorite moment is when she says that she'd always assumed that she'd have sex herself for the first time before Susan did again.
Which, again, for the lovely friends at home, Julie is 12.
Yeah.
I love Julie. I love her comedic delivery. That actress is so, so funny and adorable at the same time. I kind of hate her for it, but I love Julie the Vampire Slayer. I've missed her.
She is our queen.
So then we cut to Mike wearing a full suit. And this is another indication for me that they're Susan and Mike are being set up as soulmates. Because when Susan was really needy and calling Mike all of those times, he didn't waver. Mike got really needy back when she was being a little bit distant later. And they are both overdressing for this date, and they're both nervous. There's a knock at the door. And it's a very attractive looking lady.
Very attractive looking.
But before, we have an even more exciting cameo, which is Mike is wearing his suit. And it pans to who he is speaking to. And it's my boy Bongo.
It's dog.
It's giving dog.
It's giving dog.
It's giving dog.
He's like too dressed up.
And Bongo goes, "Arr." I screamed when I saw him. I think I fully turned the full way around. I went from hating this dog to loving him. I was a little bit concerned that Bob Fisk, the taxidermist, had got to him.
Has his eyes on Bongo.
Yes.
Well, Bongo's definitely not in the show forever. So, when he goes, we know what happened to him.
Maybe because it's not facing him at the time. The camera isn't facing him. Maybe that is the moment Bob Fisk finally got him. Anyway, so Mike opens the door. It's a very attractive looking lady wearing a very 2004 outfit. And Oh, is she a love interest? Oh, is she Mike's dead wife coming back from the dead, which is never brought up ever again. And now I'm confident that it isn't. Weird other thing that I realised. Pacing of shows is such a different thing to how it was and is now on things like Netflix or streaming services. Because only in I think it's episode 3, where Susan tries to back off from Mike because she realizes that he's still in love with his wife. And she's kissing him in episode 5.
Yeah. Yeah. But also, I think that part of the reason it's so different is because with all the more modern shows on Netflix and stuff, it's really like a 10 episode situation. So everything has to be much more intentional.
Yes.
Whereas here, we've got like 24 episodes a season. We're just doing whatever fills time, babe.
We've got time. We are Willow in the musical episode of Buffy where she's like, I think this line's mostly filler.
Yeah, it's very that.
So the next time we see Susan, she's leaving for the date. She looks very dressed up for the cinema. She's wearing a great outfit. I'm not keen on the earrings, but this scene...
This is one of my favorite moments in the episode, actually.
It's incredible. Susan's leaving for the date and Edie's putting up a real estate sign with the slogan, exceptional service, ... outstanding results. Edie is once again in her full Legally Blonde fantasy. Susan's excited. And she goes over to rub in Edie's face that she's going on a date with Mike.
And she is so wrong for that.
So wrong for that. Susan thinks she is so much better than Edie, and she is not.
And I think this is why I said earlier we're going to differ on Susan here, because Edie's my girl. I will defend Edie till the day I die. And Susan, I understand they have a rivalry, but this was just so unnecessary. Hilarious, great for entertainment value, but it's not giving Susan points.
Oh, yes. But for me, Edie is also my girl, and you can't have her. No. But I do think I find Susan at least funny in the episode, in the moments where she's mean. Much like I find Edie funny in the moments where she is mean. And Edie says to her, "Oh, you look so pretty. I hardly recognize you."
Love.
So Susan goes and knocks on Mike's door, and Mike apologizes because of an unexpected house guest. And he does say straight away, he knows how it looks, but there is nothing romantic going on between them. He says, it's hard to explain, and I love Susan for going, well, could you give it a shot?
And you know what? He does not.
He does not. And then Susan has to walk past Edie, and she has her purse covering up her face. And Edie, knowing it's only maybe 20 seconds that have passed, says, how's your big date? Mike had to reschedule. Oh, because of the hot girl with the suitcase over there? Gosh, how devastating for you.
Oh my God, I love Edie. This is karma. Susan deserved that.
Instant karma. And it is fierce. I am so Team Edie, but not in the love triangle. I am Team Edie in general. Susan and Mike Susan and Mike can have each other. Edie deserves better.
Yeah, 100%.
Also, it is crazy that in real time, Susan has burnt Edie's house to the ground, and now 3 weeks later is like, and I got the boy.
I honestly think Susan has just forgotten about the whole house burning down thing. Like, that's over in her mind. She's like, it's a new day. It's a new episode.
New year, new me.
New Year's resolution. Don't set fires this year. Oh my goodness. So we then see Mike and Kendra, the guest, poring over all of the maps and intel that Mike had gathered that we saw in episode 2.
And she comments about how there is not a lot of it.
We still don't know Carlos's age.
And he still doesn't care.
But it's time for a ton of clues to be dumped onto the audience. It becomes clear that Kendra is the daughter of the old man that Mike met in the park before, that we refer to kind of as Mike's boss.
The guy who talks like this but doesn't.
Thank you very much. I needed that. I missed it. It seems he hired Mike to find out what happened to someone who has passed away. We don't know who or is missing. It's implied that there's a personal connection for Mike too, as he clearly knows this family more than as an employee. Kendra thinks Mike is wasting his time on Wisteria Lane and is encouraging him to tell her dad that there's nothing there, but Mike wants to keep digging. It's also mentioned that Mike has lived there for 6 weeks, just for a little bit of time context since the beginning of the show.
Yes. So we've had 6 weeks, so we can roughly guess that each episode's taking about a week.
Yeah. Even though there are several episodes that say a few weeks later. But time doesn't matter in Wisteria Lane.
No. So we then cut to the next part of this arc, which is Susan giving Lynette, I'm guessing, some sort of heating device for the dinner. I don't know if it's a hot pot or hot tray. I'm not really sure. For Lynette's part of the arc, which we will talk about later. So Lynette flags, crucially, the only important part of this scene, I think you'll agree, that she has shelled her own crabs.
I love crabs, so I'm like, Lynette, come feed me.
Anyway, I suppose the important part of the scene to other people might be that Susan finds the baby blanket again and notices the name Dana on it for the first time. Lynette says, for the audience, wow, Dana was a baby. To which I say, wasn't everyone? What it reminded me very specifically of is Mockingjay, I believe part 1. And Peeta's been tortured. And he's on the screen and he's going, District 13, you'll all be dead by morning. And Haymitch completely seriously goes, warning. That was a warning. So again, it felt like Lynette just very obviously explaining for the folks at home what was going on here.
Thank you, Lynette.
Thank you, Lynette.
The next part of this arc, we get Mike and Kendra going to Paul's open house, which Edie is hosting. On their way in, Mike tells Kendra about a bar that he has to take her to, which Edie overhears. And then out of earshot of Edie, he continues to say that it's the last place anyone saw her sister. Ooh. So we have another clue that the missing person that the old man hired Mike to track down or find out what happened to is the sister of the hot girl who's visiting him. Does that make sense?
Are you writing this down? No, that makes perfect sense. You did a much better job of explaining it than I would have.
Thank you. So Susan comes to the open house under the pretense of wanting to say goodbye to Mary Alice's house before someone new moves in. But Edie sees right through that.
So she says, I want to say goodbye to Mary Alice's house. And Edie says, oh, that sounds almost plausible. Which I clocked and was nearly my quote of the week. Ooh. Because that is the exact tone and exactly, I think you'll agree, that's how I speak. Oh, that sounds almost plausible.
Oh my God. Erin, I think you need to be the blonde one of the two of us.
Okay, I'm going blonde. Episode 8.
Stay tuned for our next bonus video episode when we lock in another cast member. You'll see it.
If we hit 5,000 Spotify followers, I will go blonde.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Okay. I'm not concerned.
Prove them wrong, guys. Prove them wrong.
What I love about this moment is it's the first one where Edie and Susan almost feel like friends. So Edie wraps her arm around her and she is here to debrief. She is going to share all of the information with Susan. And she goes, and the answer is yes, they are having sex. No question. But I love her being honest and kind of saying, look, we both want the same thing. Here's the situation. Let's make this a fair fight. And the reason that Edie doesn't like Susan, I think, is that Susan does not acknowledge that her and Edie are the same. I really believe both of those characters are incredibly similar. They're both single women. They are both desperate for love. And the reason that Susan doesn't like Edie is because she sees so much of herself in her. She sees that desperation for having a partner, but Edie is less repressed, and how she goes about it with so much more confidence, I think, really threatens Susan.
Amazing. we have read this scene completely differently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I like what you said about why Edie doesn't like Susan and stuff, and I agree with that. I've been thinking throughout this episode that each plotline has their own sort of competition, so to speak.
Yes, I thought that too.
Yeah. And I think the way you're reading it is that the competition is still between Edie and Susan, aiming for Mike. But the way I'm looking at it is in this episode, or this arc at least, is the competition from Susan's perspective is between her and Kendra. And Edie is kind of not helping her in this moment so much as kind of like just rubbing it in Susan's face that she's losing between the two of them.
I completely do not think that. But maybe I'm giving Edie too much credit, but I don't see it that way. I think she's the one that says, this is the place they're going tonight. Later we see that she's invited Susan with her.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna come to that, and you'll hear how shocked I am that Edie is with her.
We also see later with Edie, not to kind of spoil where we're going with her, but there's a few moments where she's flagging that she just wanted to be their friend, the main housewife. She wanted to get into the group, and she doesn't understand why they hate her so much. Don't get me wrong, there are definitely reasons why I can understand further down the line why they hate her. But I think there is this kind of camaraderie between her and Susan. To meet, they are Charlie XCX and Lord, because I believe they could work it out on the remix.
I don't think we need to say anything else on that. I think that's perfect summary. Perfect summary. So the next scene, we hard cut to the Western themed bar that Edie overheard that Mike and Kendra were going to.
Can we go here? I feel like this is the type of bar you and I would thrive in.
No. I have no interest. Sorry, you're on your own.
I have never ridden a bull.
I'm kind of curious about riding a bull, but beyond that, I'm like, all this like cowboy themed stuff, that's not for me, babes.
You are literally wearing a t-shirt right now that's a cowboy hat with cowboy boots on.
So, shockingly, Susan has come with Edie.
Hold on. Hold the phone, or I'm going to hold my phone and take a picture of you. Because in what universe do you not go into the corner and think about what you did?
Shockingly, although maybe not shockingly now that we've already covered it, Susan has come with Edie to spy on Mike and Kendra.
I love it. I love the dynamic between these two women when they are in this frenemy territory.
I think I just love frenemy dynamics in general.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think there's something as well where we've spoken about how a few episodes ago they were alluding to this thing that I didn't like of women all secretly hate each other. But what I like that this episode and this dynamic kind of gives is that Susan and Edie secretly love each other.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a nice twist on it.
It's very cute. Like to be down with. It's very cute. Susan is convinced that nothing is going on with Kendra and Mike and goes to leave. But Edie is disappointed because she says that she was rooting for Susan to get with Mike. But only because she'd be easier to steal from Mike than Kendra. She looks like fun, is what Edie says.
It's so good. Edie's in the cute little cowboy hat. And yeah, for the record, I was rooting for you to land him. And why would you root for me? Well, I figured it'd be easier for me to steal Mike from you than her. She seems like fun. Yeah. I had to also say she seems like fun. It was so good.
It's a lovely moment.
Again, Edie is admitting the truth and Susan isn't. Susan says it's not a competition. And Edie says, the hell it isn't, which I think is so valid considering her and Susan have been in competition for 7 episodes now. And Edie's the only one being honest about it. Susan hasn't admitted it to herself because she doesn't see herself as stooping to the level that Edie stoops to, but she absolutely does.
Oh, this is exactly why I love Edie to the core.
Yes.
Because she is so unashamedly herself.
I think she has grown comfortable with who she is.
Yeah.
And she always shows up as herself. Whereas it feels like Susan always shows up ready to be someone else.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. Susan. Oh, and we're going to have a moment of that with Susan in a little bit.
Ooh, let's segue into it. So, Susan in the previous scene has left Edie to go to the bathroom. And in the time that Susan has gone to the bathroom, Edie is riding that bull. And she looks so cool and hot and fun. And she throws her little hat and Susan picks it up. And when she stands back up, she is face to face with Mike Delfino. Dun, dun, dun. Susan denies following Mike, saying that she happens to love riding the bull because of the adrenaline rush. And she puts the cowboy hat on. And it is seen as her volunteering to ride the bull. The man, this is my favorite moment of the episode, and this is my quote of the week.
Oh.
I think the man says something like, "Come up, doggy." And Terry Hatcher has the best delivery of, "Oh, fun, I'm a doggy." And I was in hysterics over it.
Incredible. Before she gets on that bull, though, Mike basically calls her out on following them there.
Yes.
And literally says to Susan that he bumped into Edie at the bathroom and Edie told him, "Oh, the jig is up. We followed you. Da, da, da."
Yes.
So Mike has said, "I know with 100% certainty that you're here to follow me." And Susan refuses to admit this. And Susan can commit to a bit.
She really can.
Because she says, "No, I love to ride the bill." She goes with this lie. She puts herself in this situation, even though she's... the facts are there.
I also love that, again, just because of what we were just saying, Edie has gone up to Mike and gone, "The jig is up. Susan and I followed you here. Here is all the information. I'm being completely upfront."
Yes.
And even later, I just imagine, later you see her and she's surrounded by a group of men. And I imagine her saying to Mike, "If I don't leave here with you tonight, I'm leaving here with somebody."
Oh, 100%. That is something Edie would say. And this scene ends with Susan trying to recreate Edie's little hat throw when she throws it, but accidentally hits the guy controlling the bull, who then accidentally hits a switch, and Susan is immediately hit in the face by the bull and knocked right on over.
I love it. I understand the cringiness of it, of Susan trying to be sexy and putting the effort into it. It's funny to watch. But I do think Kendra is a bit of a Messica Jessica here by putting her arm on Mike's shoulder. And I can understand why that has really threatened Susan.
Well, I think Kendra has no desires of her own for Mike, but is clearly trying to put a bit of a wedge here.
Yes. So the next time we see this trio, Susan is embarrassed. Kendra has gotten her a beer and Mike reintroduces Kendra. Kendra confirms they are just buddies and Mike leaves to go get Susan some ice for her face. Kendra tells Susan that she would be smart to be careful and tries to warn her essentially against Mike, saying, you should ask him about why he's really here, meaning in Wisteria Lane. Mike comes back with ice. Meanwhile, in a harrowing moment because of what we're going to discuss later, the investigator who Paul Young hired shows up to speak to Edie. Edie says, "Take a seat," like he's next in line, which I really love. She was just speaking to a group of boys and then she turns and goes, "Take a seat." It feels like job interview vibes.
Oh, yeah, just a little bit.
Which I really enjoy.
But no, after that previous conversation with Paul and the investigator, I'm like, I get scared for Edie in this scene. Even having seen the show before, I'm like, I get a little bit of shivers every time.
Shiver me timbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, would you say you're quaking in your cowboy boots? Yeah, you sip that drink.
All right, team. Now we have Tom being surprised at how clean the house is, not knowing that Lynette pulled it off using her kid's ADHD medication. He tells her that he has a pitch to the board members of his work coming up that he really wants to go well. He works in advertising, by the way. Him and Lynette both did. I also don't know if that's come up before. So anyway, just FYI. He doesn't want to tell Lynette about his pitch, but he does want to have the board members and their wives over for a sort of formal dinner party to pitch the idea at home. The implication being that Lynette will have to pull off this formal dinner in a couple days' time.
2 days. It's the day after tomorrow.
Yeah. Lynette is resistant at first, but when Tom makes a comment about how Bree is doing that kind of thing all the time, she becomes determined. And, this is more of that theme of competition poking through. Then at the end of the scene, Lynette realizes that she is out of her kid's ADHD medication. That kind of shows that she's been using it for some time and not just as a one-off in that previous episode because she's gone through the whole prescription.
Yes, and also the house is spotless. It's definitely starting to feel like she has become reliant on the medication. So here's some things that I don't know as a person who lives in Scotland, and also as someone who, I was going to say not alive in 2004. I absolutely was. I just was 9. Okay. Is the reason she can't renew her the prescription for the kids that Tom will somehow see the medical bill because they have to pay for prescriptions and wonder why when he knows that they're not medicating the kids?
Oh, that's an excellent point, because it honestly didn't even occur to me that she could just ask the doctor for more and pretend she's using it on her kids.
Well, yes, that's what my first thought. And then I thought, is it something to do with the cost of prescription? Is it that Tom will see it?
Is it a plot hole?
What I also want to flag, and it's very obvious, but Bree does do this kind of thing all the time. But Bree's children are also teenagers, and Bree was not pregnant 3 times in the space of 2 years.
Yes.
It's a very different conversation.
I noted that down too as well. And don't get me wrong, just given Bree's character, I'm sure that if she did have younger kids and was pregnant 3 times in the space of a few years, she probably still would pull it all off. But that's not the point.
Yes. But again, it's this idea of competition, and Lynette and Bree, we've said before that they are in some ways well, to me personally anyway, they feel the most similar in a lot of ways. And I kind of like the idea in my head that maybe Bree did struggle when the 2 kids were really young, but she didn't let anybody see it.
Oh, definitely no. Never.
So next. This scene is so funny, Jakub.
Lynette becomes a caricature in this scene.
Yes, because she at this point I think it's kind of fair to say that she's a drug addict at this point. She is dependent on a drug to get by, and so she has become somewhat unrecognizable when she approaches Jordana in the park. Jordana, who we saw a couple of episodes ago, who introduced Lynette to the idea of taking her children's ADHD medication. Lynette flat out asks Jordana for a top-up. But Jordana says she's running low. However, Jordana does sympathise that come down can be a real bitch.
And we can see it because she is all jittery, she's frazzled and, well, really just desperate in this moment.
Hey.
Yes.
Also, some other things about this scene. One, I think Jordana is best friends with Brandy. That's my headcanon. I see them getting along.
Okay.
Do you remember who Brandy is?
Yeah, Carl's Brandy.
Do you remember how during the Brandy kind of episode we said that there's probably a sideshow somewhere of her and all of her friends? Jordana is in that show. This is secretly a crossover episode. Anyway.
When's that spin-off coming?
Lynette reveals in this scene that she has a sister.
Oh, yeah. Which, much similarly to other relatives mentioned in passing from the characters, she also makes some positive comment about her sister, who in future seasons will come to find is a very inaccurate comment.
Yes. So the scene ends with Lynette essentially threatening Jordana, but in a very suburban way, saying she's not going to buy Girl Scout cookies from Tina.
It was excellent.
I also really like that Lynette isn't really a violent person. Me saying that, and as the words are coming out of my mouth, remembering her in the first episode fully punching Tom in the throat.
Lynette is the most violent of the housewives.
But I mean, in terms of she didn't escalate the situation to violence here.
Not yet.
I'm such a Lynette apologist.
You are. In another not so good for Lynette scene.
You can't see, but my eyes are closed. I'm blind to it.
Lynette is having coffee with another mom during a planned play date between her twins and this woman's boys, who are all going wild on a trampoline. This was very clearly a strategic play date from Lynette, knowing that these boys were also being medicated for ADHD, or not also, since she's not medicating her own boys. So she quickly excuses herself to the bathroom, where she rummages around the meds cabinet and steals some of other person's children's medication.
Little Timmy's.
For herself.
It's little Timmy, tiny Timmy. I just liked Lynette, the voiceover from Mary Alice. As Lynette swallowed the stolen medication of an 8-year-old child, she vowed she'd never again sink to such depths. Anytime soon.
And then takes a little bit more.
I love this moment of the voiceover in particular because it does feel like Mary Alice playing the role of Erin, in that she's trying to defend Lynette, her friend.
But it's really hard.
It's really difficult. Then we cut to the dinner party. And I'm going to say that despite how Tom feels about it, it is infinitely more successful than Bree's dinner party.
Rex cries after he ejaculates.
Tom cries after his wife overshadows him. So, Lynette looks cute and the plates are being polished and she looks great and she is smiling and she is happy for once. And Tom is finally ready to present his idea to the higher-ups about the spotless scrub, which in my head is like a scrub daddy. Do you know what a scrub daddy is?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
This man doesn't live by himself. A scrub daddy is a thing that was on Shark Tank and is now known by housewives everywhere as essentially a super sponge.
Okay.
So he is talking about putting it on the side of supermarket trolleys, and Lynette jumps in because she is high on ADHD medication, kind of saying, why not dry cleaning bags instead? And the wife of the executive person agrees. Why is that significant to me? Because, again, Tom is talking about a product that he personally would not be using, but the women, the ones who are more likely to be using it because they're in this weird housewife lifestyle, are the ones weighing in on what is actually going to be effective, which is what you would do in marketing, is you would talk to the people who will actually be using the product. Anyway, the folks at the dinner party love Lynette's ideas, because this business part of her still exists and she was incredible at her job. However, Tom is furious.
Yeah. Lynette fully takes over that pitch.
Yeah.
After dinner, we see that Tom is furious at Lynette. He clearly seems very insecure about the fact that Lynette had obviously been better at advertising than he is when they were both in the industry. And maybe that's why he wanted her to become a stay-at-home mom in the first place. Did you write the same thing?
I wrote the exact same thing, Jakub. I'm so glad we're on the same page about this.
Yeah, he wanted to eliminate that competition, I guess, in his wife, which is crazy because, like, if they met, well, they did meet at work. And so they obviously had this amazing chemistry together when they were both in the business. So it's crazy that Tom would have ever wanted to, like, kind of, eliminate that aspect of her.
Yes, there is a certain type of person that goes for very strong, independent people, and I think relishes somewhat in knocking them down a few pegs. Yeah. And I'm not saying Tom is consciously doing that, but it certainly feels that way in this scene. He's saying that she made his ideas look bad, and Lynette says, then have better ideas. And I think we were supposed to go, oh, that's going to really hurt his feelings. I don't care.
Yeah, he accuses her of always trying to compete with him, which Lynette snaps at. And she explains angrily that these days she's trying to compete with the Bree Vandekamps of the world and their spotless dinners, except for that one in episode 3. And then when he brings work home, it reminds her of a time when she was a winner and people would be competing with her and how much she misses that. And she just kind of feels stuck in the middle of these two worlds.
Yes. And she says, I can't win where I am.
Yeah, it's very sad. It is really sad. And then Tom takes the opportunity to kind of gas up his wife a bit with compliments. And like, it starts off with that continued angry tone, but as he's saying it sort of like sweetens out and it becomes a little bit of a sweet moment, I guess. And, he's praising her for the dinner and he's praising her for how good a mother she is. And the tone does turn really sweet. And it is a nice moment until Tom clocks that there's something up with her eyes because she's so high on ADHD meds.
And then we hear a siren wailing, which interrupts the scene, which we will get to.
We'll come to it later. Ooh.
Mysterious. Something else about the scene is this is a clear core resentment of their marriage being exposed here. And it's the first time they are addressing the actual problem, I think, which is that Tom feels inferior to Lynette. The work that in their relationship that needs to be done cannot be done until Tom wrestles with that aspect of this inferiority complex that he has. And he is happier with his wife being so miserable than he was where his wife was happy and he was in a lower position. It's an ego thing. The man's ego is the problem of the relationship.
What I like, though, is that they are talking about it and communicating it, because then, which we'll get to later when we talk about Bree and Rex, their relationship, it's like they simply cannot get to the root of the problem because Rex won't talk about it. I'm happy that at least Tom will, get into it, even if he's not actively addressing it.
The bar is on the floor.
Yeah.
The bar is on the floor.
Yeah.
John is mowing the lawn, shirtless, but with not a lick of sweat on him. Fine. Gabby is calling John on the phone to meet at the motel in an hour, but he reveals he is going to the cinema.
These people, I guess there's not much to do in these suburbs.
With Danielle, and that it's a date. I will say I am much more compassionate about him going to the cinema because he's a teenager, and we did say it's a very first date, first love teenage thing to do. It feels very normal, and he is acting like his age. Maybe Mike recommended him a movie. So Mama Solis is reading the book club book from earlier, which I love, and she is watching John on the phone. She waits until Gabby hangs up, goes upstairs, grabs Gabby's phone, and presumably calls the last number, which is John. He answers by saying, "Don't even try to make it up to me by talking dirty." And Mama Solis has confirmed the affair officially. Once again, we need that cherry phone.
Oh, I wrote that down too. We see Gabby throw her gorgeous cherry red flip phone onto the bed, and we get a close-up of it in all its glory. I have a few things to say about this scene. I like that Juanita is working so hard to get hard evidence before bringing the affair to Carlos so that Gabby cannot come up with any lie or twist anything or wiggle out of it. Because like Juanita, she's kind of caught on to this affair before this scene, but she's like, no, I will present Carlos with receipts. Love that. I love how defiant John is in this scene. Like when Gabby first calls him, she's like, "Don't turn around, my mother-in-law's on the porch." But then when John's kind of like getting angrier, he does turn around and looks right at her, which is honestly is probably why when he ended up going upstairs. And the other thing I wanted to say is that, look, characters aside, it has to be said, Jesse Metcalfe is a gorgeous human being. I think after speaking to Emily on our bonus episode, it's kind of reignited that in me. He is such a gorgeous man.
I think this is more evidence that you and I have different types in men.
Yeah. And that will continue to be the theme of this show as we progress.
And continue to be the theme of our lives.
Yes. Me and Erin ain't never going to fight over a man.
No, we are not. Unless it's Carl.
Yeah, that's true. Do you think we can get him on the pod?
I hope not, because then it turns into you and I fighting. You full Edie Susan.
That's great content, Erin.
Great content.
So later, Gabby is on a run when she passes by Danielle, and she gets an idea and approaches Danielle, remembering that she had expressed interest in becoming a model once. So she offers Danielle a sponsorship to go to some modeling summer program in New York, which excites Danielle. Obviously, just trying to get her out of the picture so she can keep John to herself.
Poor Eva Longoria, she has to do weird fake yoga, and in this scene, for whatever reason, the director has her jogging on the spot while having this important conversation. So she's just like, yeah, in New York.
Oh, I wish we had this moment on video for our viewers.
Well, don't worry, if you watch the episode, my impression will be uncanny. But poor naive Danielle. I think she has no idea why her mother's trusted friend is trying to ship her off to New York.
I mean, as the show goes on, we do get the sense that Danielle is not the brightest bulb in the box.
And I love her for that. Hear me out. Not everyone needs to be smart.
Truly.
Also, I really like Gabby's kind of peach juicy couture tracksuit in this scene.
Yeah. Is that appropriate running wear? Is that not quite a warm material?
I don't think Gabby is concerned about appropriate running wear.
That's very true.
Bree is heated because of an argument with Rex, which again, we'll get there. But that's important to know as she goes right over to confront Gabby. In my head, Bree is really right here that even if Gabby didn't have the ulterior motive that we know about as an audience, she should have discussed with Bree first before making such an impactful decision on her child's life. John, the child gardener, overhears what Gabby has done, and he is rightly pissed off. He quits the job, and disgustingly, horrifically, once again, Gabby is trying to manipulate him with sex. This time, breakup sex. And karma is coming this episode. This is an episode of karma because Mama Solis overhears the entire altercation.
Oh yeah, she's like snacking on a little packet of snacks. She's smiling because she is buzzing. She's getting closer and closer to getting the evidence she wants.
She has done more investigative work in this episode than Mike Delfino has done in the 6 weeks.
So right for that. Kendra
is begging for someone to like Mama Solis.
Phenomenal. So that night, Carlos and his mother are getting ready for a formal business dinner, and Gabby is faking cramps so she can have the aforementioned breakup sex with John when they're away. Juanita, who is counting on this, convinces Carlos to let Gabby stay home.
It's a great altercation of take care of Carlos, and Mama Solis says, "Oh, I always do."
Mm-hmm. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yes.
So Gabby and John finish hooking up with their breakup sex and are making out in bed. And outside, Juanita pulls up in a taxi and surprises Gabby and John with a disposable camera.
Love.
And tells Gabby to smile as she takes a picture and walks away. And she kind of shakes her head like, oh, you idiot.
It's so good. I also wonder, not only is she kind of collating all of these receipts for Carlos, I did have the thought of, I wonder if she's getting the hard evidence of the affair because there will be a clause in the prenup that Gabby gets nothing if she's had an affair.
Oh, that is a great point. I love that. That's so right.
I'm pretty sure that's what's happening.
That is never, I don't think it's confirmed, but like that's headcanon at least.
Yes.
At least. So John is frantically getting dressed and freaking out while Gabby immediately gives up on life.
Love.
She like, her face goes blank. It's almost like this wave of calm.
Yes.
Washes over her. Like, it doesn't matter how she feels. It's done. She starts packing a bag.
Love. She starts packing a Louis Vuitton bag.
She's like, well, my life is over. Oh, well, it is what it is.
I think she thinks that she is basically having to go into hiding. And I love the shock in the performance here. But also, I think, I can't remember if I said this in my own head or if she says it in the scene, but it's something like, well, that'll be that then. It's that kind of attitude of, well, I guess this is it. And John is chasing, saying, I'm not kidding, old woman.
He literally tries to force the camera off of her, but Mama Solis is a fighter. She literally knocks John to the ground. She's incredible.
I feel like she took a Martha Hooper self-defense class.
Oh my God. Martha Huber, self-defense instructor. Literally, that's her job of the week.
Done.
Oh my God. So now all frantic and frazzled after John tried to force the camera off of her, Juanita runs onto the street and is dun, hit by a passing car.
I remember watching this for the first time. And this was the biggest plot twist I think that I had ever seen up until this point. Bearing in mind, I'm 9. Like, my biggest plot twist up until then was the Teletubbies going goodbye and then they fake the goodbye and they actually come back. So let's put that in perspective.
Yeah.
I still think in terms of television, and considering the amount of American TV shows you and I have both watched and spoken about the trope of the hit and run.
Now, you know me, Erin. You know that I despise a car crash plot twist. And there are more to come throughout the course of the show.
Yes.
But this one feels so earned. It's purely plot driven. There is cause with everyone involved. All of the story arcs come to a head here so naturally, and it just works. But how that all comes together, we'll get to a bit later, because we will get to who was driving the car in a little bit.
Yes, all we need to know just now is that a random man who's out for a jog, again, says that a guy, so we know it's a man, came out of nowhere and hit her. And Gabby tells him to call 911. Obviously, after that interaction, Gabby takes the disposable camera.
Yeah, she tells John to go home and that she'll take care of it.
Because John is running towards Mama Solis, presumably to do some sort of CPR or try and make sure she's okay. Gabby is thinking she's out for herself.
Yeah, it's very dramatic.
I love it.
We see Gabby sat outside with the paramedics. This is the cause of the siren that Tom and Lynette hear during their fight that causes them to come outside. Bree is also out seeing the commotion, but when Lynette arrives and can, I guess, sit and console Gabby, Bree runs back home to, I don't know, get supplies, something to help the situation. But anyway, speaking of Bree, we will circle back to what happens when she runs home, but we're going to go right back to the beginning of the Bree scenes.
Bree and Rex, aka Brex, are called to Andrew's school because Andrew has broken a boy's nose. Bree is also, during the meeting, for some reason, reading the book club book. Rex is blaming their marital problems for Andrew acting out, and Rex reveals that Bree is going to be served with divorce papers later that day. And the poor headmistress is witness to all of this. Once again, this feels like Rex trying to humiliate and get a rise out of Bree because he asked for the divorce in a public place and he is now talking about serving her with divorce papers in front of someone that Bree clearly respects.
What I find interesting in this scene is that Bree is just so on board with punishing Andrew.
Yes.
She is really team, he needs to take responsibility for his actions. She literally tells the headmistress, like, you do whatever you see fit. Rex continues to not have any communication skills because he has not, obviously, if you're going to serve your wife divorce papers, it's not like it's going to be coming out of the blue. They've been having marital problems. He could have said to her, I'm getting divorce papers. Like you say, doing it in this public setting, it's almost like because he's so bad at communication, he doesn't even want to have the conversation. So he does it in this public setting so that he knows Bree won't get into it in front of an audience, so to speak.
Yes, it's awful.
But Bree essentially responds by essentially being like, bring it.
Yes.
And then
she says she'll take him for everything.
Yeah. And that again weaves in a little bit of that theme of competition.
Yes. The next scene, Bree's in a cute little outfit with a neckerchief that's orange and this green top. She looks like a cute little carrot.
I like her hair in this scene.
Yes.
It's slightly different than usual. A bit of it is like pinned back.
In this scene, Bree and Brex, are talking about Brexit.
Brexit means Brexit.
Brexit means Brexit. Bree and Rex are getting a divorce and they are finally telling the children. Danielle is brushing her hair during this conversation.
She is so unbothered.
I love her. I think that Danielle is criminally underrated.
She also massively improved her hair since the pilot episode. I noticed she's no longer wearing a wig.
Yes, and they're letting us know that because she is brushing her hair with a hairbrush.
Hair reveal.
Andrew's reaction is immediately, can I live with Dad? Bree asks Danielle if that's what she wants too, and Danielle is kind of indifferent. Bree excuses herself, blaming the wine, but it's clear that she's gotten very emotional about this.
She's devastated. It's really sad, actually.
I think, again, I'm going to circle back to a previous episode where I think it's very easy to blame the parent who stayed. And it's very easy to say the person that's left is the kind of dream parent to be with because they're the ones who are there part-time. You get the best versions of them. They get to be the fun one. And nothing says that more to me than the next scene.
Yes. The next day, Rex surprises his kids with extravagant gifts. He gets a sports car for Andrew,
who is 16.
And he gets luggage for Danielle to use when she goes to New York for the modeling thing, which is the first that Bree is hearing of this.
Awful.
And so Bree sees it as Rex trying to buy his kids love post-divorce chat.
Which I think is the perfect analysis. I think that there is a degree of, on first reading, this is Bree kind of assuming the worst of Rex. But with later in the episode, we realize she was bang on, I think. Mm-hmm. And Rex denies that that's what he was doing and undermines her, saying, you know, they're my kids too, they can have it. Rex has turned fully evil by this point to me. Rex, I'm going to say, is the monster of the week.
Ooh, fully on board. Rex is the monster of the week. I agree. I don't think he's fully evil yet. I think he's turning. I mean, I don't know how authentic to his truth it is, but we do, and he does explain a motive for getting the gifts later, which we'll come to.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll discuss it then. So Bree is naturally very annoyed in this moment, and this is when she sees Gabrielle in the distance and goes over to confront her, which we covered earlier.
It's really hard. I really feel for Bree in this moment. She has had everything that she has worked so hard for ripped away from her. And again, Rex gets to come in here and be the hero. He's giving the extravagant gifts. He looks like the good guy. And he is he's not helping the narrative that Andrew has already spoken about before, that this is Bree's fault. The next scene.
I love the next scene.
The next scene is great. The kids come back in Andrew's car. And Bree has taken out all of the children's belongings. She is essentially throwing the kids out of the house in the kindest way.
In the most Bree way possible.
She has had the locks changed. She's even waving at the locksmith, saying he was very helpful. She's giving him 5 on Yelp, 5 stars. She said that the children will get the new keys if they agree to follow her house rules. I have a very hot take about this.
Go for it.
I agree with Bree. My opinion on this is, whilst it's a comedic way of showing it, that if the kids are going to be staying with Bree, they should be following Bree's rules. And if they're staying with Rex, they should be following Rex's rules. And if they're going to do any sort of back and forth playing them off of each other, then there will be consequences of that. The rules include giving back whatever Rex's gifts were. Danielle immediately caves. Danielle just wants a nice life.
Danielle reminds me of that person in this season of White Lotus. And you know that quote that's like, I'm just not meant to live an uncomfortable life.
Yes, that's Danielle all grown up.
Yes.
Yeah, Danielle decides not to go to New York. However, Andrew leaves in his car. We have seen throughout every episode so far that Andrew and Bree's relationship is really difficult and really strained, and Andrew favours his father. Danielle is happy to go with whatever. She's down to clown.
Truly.
I always see people talk about, or I have seen people in the past talk about Danielle, and I don't think she gets the justice she deserves. And I might also be a Danielle apologist.
I think that my feelings on Danielle get more pronounced in later seasons when she has a little bit more of a character. She's so indifferent in this season, and that just makes her character so indifferent to me. Like, she's not taking a stand on anything, so I have no opinion on her.
No, she's an unbothered queen.
Yeah, and she's like Moo Deng. Danielle is Moo Deng.
Out of context, offensive.
So that night we see
she's never coming on the pod. With
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you better
It's
say
a
sorry.
compliment, I promise.
I love Danielle. Okay.
So that night, Andrew is at Rex's motel, and Rex is mad because, as he claims, Rex bought them the gifts on the condition that they would continue living with their mother.
AKA, Rex doesn't want them.
Yeah, and there's a really cringy moment here where Andrew talks about how, like, oh yeah, this can be like our bachelor pad.
Yes. Andrew, you promised you'd stay with your mother. That's why I gave you the car. This is another moment for me of Rex doesn't want the kids. He doesn't want the kids in the house. He doesn't want the responsibility of parenting. And he is using them to hurt Bree.
Rex, from what we learn about Rex later, I really think that Rex is essentially a gay man who's able to host for the first time and is excited by that.
Rex does... You know what? Do you...
What is it? Do tell.
I fear you've cooked.
Dinner is served, my
I fear
desperados.
you've cooked at the gig. Is Rex a closeted gay man? It would make a lot of sense.
I think that's just something we'll need to come back to as the series goes on. Lots to think about.
So much to think about. Andrew calls his buddy to ask for a fake ID so that he can get drunk before begging Bree to let him back in the house because he said, if I have to kiss my mum's ass, I'm not going to do it sober.
Yeah. And this is the precursor to the reveal that if you haven't figured it out already, Andrew is the person who hit Juanita as he drove home drunk.
We see the beaten up car, Andrew behind the wheel, and he rightfully looks quite upset about potentially committing murder.
Yeah, I would too, to be honest. So circling back to when the paramedics are on the lane and Bree runs home, this is when she finds Andrew crying and scared. It's really sad. He just looks at her and through tearful eyes is like, Mama. And Bree calls Rex when she realizes what's happened.
We get the Van de Kamp family coming back together in this moment, which I think a lot of families do in moments of crisis. Everyone is putting everything that they've gone through aside in this moment. So Andrew is crying. He says mama. He never calls Bree mama. He never even calls Bree mum, really, or at least not in a tender way. And she straight away knows what has happened. She has put two and two together very quickly. Bree is putting her feud with Rex aside and you know that Rex is going to come immediately home. And Danielle holds Andrew's hand, which is really, really rare moment of tenderness between the both of them.
Yeah, it's also probably the most character we've ever seen from Danielle.
She brushed her hair.
Then the Mary Alice voiceover comes back to round out the episode, once again talking about competition, about how there will always be winners, which is paired with a shot of Gabby, and losers, which is paired with a shot of Lynette, although both of them look miserable.
Yes.
And she says that the trick is knowing which battles to fight because no victory comes without a price. And that is paired with shots of Rex driving the car he got for Andrew into the Van de Kamp garage and Bree and Rex together closing the garage door.
And again, the symbolism of them both doing it in sync and together. They have gone from enemies to working together in this moment. And there is a weird sense, for me anyway, watching it, that the divorce is getting put aside, at least for now, because they've got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
We have spoken at the beginning about how we have now officially launched and we are now able to talk to you all at home. And one of my great friends, Rosie, listened to episode 2, where we speak about what the Desperate Housewives, Real Housewives taglines would be. And they have offered up some suggestions.
Oh my God, I'm so excited for this.
Lynette, my husband opened a pizza parlor, but I just want a slice of peace.
Oh my God.
Susan, I'm so clumsy, I hope I don't accidentally break your heart. This one I feel like is the most likely to actually be a Real Housewives one. Gabby, the only relationship I'm committed to is with my wardrobe.
But you know what? Gabby is the most like a Real Housewife.
Absolutely.
So that so tracks.
My personal favorite, Bree. I can clean the kitchen, but can I clean up my life?
Bree would never agree to that as her tagline, but it is appropriate.
It's so good. I thank you so much for that, Rosie.
Thank you, Rosie. If anyone else thinks of some taglines, send them in to us.
Please send in some
We'll
taglines.
read them on the pod. We'll do it.
We can cut this out, but my favorite comment was the one that you received about your voice. Can we read that out?
Well, let me find it. Hold on.
It's my favorite thing.
So this person, who I've never met before, said, I listened to your first podcast. I have to say, you guys have done a great job. I quite like the flow and the tones, but I heard your voice is a bit stuffed, like you had a blocked nose. LMAO, laughing emoji. Are you feeling better now? Or is it how you sound normally? Thank you for that.
They said, are you okay? You have had a cold since the 90s, and I think that's okay.
If anyone needs a tissue, I got you.
What we haven't done this week yet is spoken about who the worst neighbor is.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we have to agree, but anyway, who's your worst neighbor?
You go.
I mean, I want to give it to Martha so badly for the opening scene. But I mean, Andrew literally killed someone, so it's got to be Andrew.
So the most important thing to note here is I had already forgotten about that.
Sure.
And we don't know Mama Salisa's fate yet.
That's true.
So we have not updated the death count, crucially. No spoilers.
Well, except for that runner in the beginning.
Yes. I forgot about Andrew in that moment, and I thought about Lynette stealing the medication from the 8-year-old. So
A very valid reason for a worst neighbor contender, though, to be fair. So, yeah.
you know what? The whole lane are bad neighbours this week.
Yeah, like house prices are going down on Wisteria Lane this week.
Yeah. Like the women aren't reading the book club book, bad neighbour. Mm-hmm. Martha Hooper moving a dead body onto Bree's lawn,
Bad neighbour.
Susan rubbing the date with Mike in Edie's face,
Bad neighbour.
Edie saying that Paul should lie about where Mary Alice died. Bad neighbour.
Real estate agent.
Bad entrepreneur. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. We love you very much. Stay
desperate. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Be sure to check out our Instagram for visuals, behind the scenes content, and more.
You can find us by searching for Modded, that's MEWDYD.
Or just search for Mary Alice, What Did You Do?
This podcast is brought to you entirely by us, Erin McGee
and Jakub Tanzi. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to leave us a review. It really helps us out.
Join us next time for another episode of Mary Alice,
What Did You Do?